Welcome. We are so glad that you want to find more meaning in your life through writing. And we believe that a lot can get done in a small amount of time. And so we want to do that with you today. So we invite you to grab a piece of paper or open up a document on your computer or print out the worksheet that comes with this workshop. Because we're going to do some writing together, because that's really the only way to be a better writer, and to really find the things that you wouldn't be able to find through any other way. So we're so excited that you're here. We're Ashley May and Kathy, and we met each other about 10 years ago now in an MFA program. Both of us were writing, and we co-founded Mind to Tell now after all that time, and we'll just introduce ourselves really briefly. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I am Ashley May, and like Kathy said, we met 10 years ago. I've been writing ever since in various forms, and I've written a couple books that have been published and have published in various other places. And part of the impetus for creating Mind to Tell was recognizing how many emotional barriers that I needed to work through to actually get to the act of writing. And also the barriers of time. And I have 3 small kids. Kathy and I, in every meeting we have, both of us are interrupted collectively by our collective 6 children. And so we know what it's like to need to write in a small amount of time. And so that's something that we both feel really strongly about, and are really happy to be doing together with you today.
Yeah. And I'm Kathy. I've published short stories and essays in different places. And one of my favorite things to do is to read on stage. I think there are a lot of different places where readings are available. And I just find that such a fun experience to create a story and then have the experience of sharing that story with an audience. And in having that experience, I realized there were a lot of barriers to writing when you're kind of picturing that audience, and how important it is to write just for yourself first before you picture all those people in the room with you, because you can just become paralyzed. And I think that's one of the big blocks to a lot of writing, at least for a lot of the people that we've taught at Mind to Tell. And so one of the things that we do at Mind to Tell is we teach you how to write first for yourself, so that you can find that meaning and understanding, and you can gain confidence in your own experience before you ever share it with other people. It gives you a chance to kind of take ownership of your own life through writing.
Oh, perfect. So in this little workshop, we are hoping that we can give you a taste of what that feels like, to create more meaning in your life by engaging directly with the details that touch you, that are small, that seem insignificant, and maybe just like that nobody else can even see or take part in. What happens when we engage with those details through writing, and how does that make not only your own life more meaningful, but then you engage in other ways more meaningfully, and are able to eventually have a more powerful and efficacious voice through the act of writing.
And one of the things that we hope you'll get out of this workshop is that not only will you write some things, but once you finish this workshop and you go out into your life, you may find that the things that we do together during this workshop help you to see your life differently, to see that life is not just passively happening to you. If you can engage with those details, and do something with them, make something out of them, then suddenly every single thing you're doing, even the monotonous, boring things, somehow become kind of infused with meaning, and life just becomes that much more amazing. And there are more things that come to you that you may want to write down.
Yeah, perfect. So, how can writing actually make your life more meaningful? And we wanted to start with because we're not you, we're us. We wanted to share the ways in which writing has, in our own lives, worked in that way for us. So, for me, writing requires me to see what is in front of me, not just see it, but examine it, consider it, and ask questions of it. Because I think it's so easy to look way far beyond, especially now that we have social media, that news outlets are like a constant presence. It's easy to kind of miss what is happening right in front of us. And so writing kind of asks me to slow down and to look at those things, and to not just look at them, but actually kind of examine, turn them over, to see them for a little more than what I originally maybe thought that they were.
Writing allows for moments to expand in ways that I wouldn't consider otherwise. I wrote through a full notebook after my father passed away. And it was really interesting to me how that time that passed when in his decline, he had cancer. The time it felt like it went so fast. Everything went so fast and the days just passed, and it was like I was kind of just trying to find my balance again. And through writing, I was able to take those moments that meant so much to me with him and kind of expand them in a way that almost made it feel like I got more time with him. And so there are these things that happen in our lives, and they just go 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, just like every other moment of the day. But there's some of those really pivotal moments that we can take them and we can expand them and look at them and see what they're doing in our lives in a way that helps us and anybody else that we share that writing with.
Really beautifully said. Yeah, for me, writing allows me to see a string that connects me to people, events, and experiences beyond my own. And so I'm thinking of an example that happened recently in this past little while, where we did, at the beginning of quarantine, we did these prayer writing sessions where people came together in a kind of a live setting, and we wrote prayers about really specific things, even though this very large global thing was happening in some way to all of us. It was so big and hard to grasp because it's just a gigantic thing. And so it's useful for me to write into what is mine so that I can better see, somebody else is experiencing this same experience in a totally different way, and there's still some sort of connection there, rather than us functioning in this abstract, really big world. So for me, that's really useful, and it's been useful as I'm working through my own racism and privilege to write those things as well, because it's another pivotal moment in time where there are very, very large things that if I try and wrangle that giant thing, I can't be useful. But when I step back and look at what is my own and write into that, I am better able to empathize and change who I am to hopefully like better the situation as best that I know how.
Writing for me helps me take myself seriously. It's funny how we grow up in a situation that it is whatever it is. And it's easy to believe that because whatever situation is most familiar to you is so familiar that somehow it's not important, or that someone else's perspective is more valuable or more interesting, or somebody else has something to say. And by taking your experience and articulating it on the page, there's something about that act that helps you take yourself seriously. And so if you pay attention to the things that you say about yourself, about your life, about your perspective, if there's any part of your life that you're not taking seriously as valid or as important, writing is a way to help you stop doing that. So you can actually acknowledge the fact that your perspective is valuable, and what you contribute is immensely valuable to this world. It's so necessary. And it's so easy for us to dismiss all that we're capable of. in so many ways, but writing just, it won't let you get away with that.
It's true. It's true. And I think adding to that, just from my own personal experience, I've spent, my oldest son is 9 now. So I spent a lot of time as a stay-at-home mom. And I was living in a city that was it was Palo Alto. It was very intense. And I had to reckon with the fact that I was just a stay-at-home mom. Like, it was a real thing that I worked through for a long time. And writing was a way to kind of get my footing and to say, like, this, that this is also a really valuable, valid experience that is not any more or any less than somebody who has like a big career. Also, we should have said at the beginning, Kathy and I are criers, me more than Kathy.
Here. There already are.
And actually, we're just letting you know, we're not apologizing for it. But in part because we do feel really strongly about the power of writing and what it can do for you. And not, oh, gee whiz, not just because we think that, but because we've experienced it, and we've worked through it in many ways, and in many different facets of our lives. So the last one, writing surprises me and shows me that there is more to my own perspective and experience than I originally thought. So I think that relates directly back to that idea of like being a stay-at-home mom and what I told people about that. Like, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. But when I wrote in, when I wrote into that, it was clear that it wasn't just anything. Like, it wasn't not complex. It wasn't not strenuous and difficult and beautiful and frustrating and wonderful, like all rolled into one. But the act of writing that was really important for me to kind of take a hold of that and to see that as a truth rather than something that I maybe wanted to believe. Like, I was able to say, no, I actually, I know that's true. I know this is more complex in all ways than I think it is, because I've written through it, and here's the proof, and I own what has been written. So let's move to the next slide and see in this next one, these are some quotes from students that we've taught. We teach a live course every year, which is very similar to a new course that we just released. That is a self-paced course that you can do on your own. But this is some of what our students said in the very last session of this course.
And my writing taught me to listen to the part of me that wishes and wants and longs for and hopes, to embrace the idea that my personhood has value in this world. And I think there's something so valuable about if there is something that you want or something that you hope for, write it. You could write it down. And there's something about that says, yes, this is important enough to articulate. There's something so powerful that happens if you can articulate your own experience.
Emily said, there are pieces of my stories I hadn't realized I remembered or that I was holding so tightly to, but when illuminated, carried significance of their own. Which is so exciting to kind of unearth these stories and memories and moments that you didn't realize that are actually big and illuminative. So I love that.
Laura said, writing has taught me to be honest. I didn't realize how much my truths were getting weighed down by worrying about others' perceptions of them. And this, I think, is fascinating, especially in the world that we're living in. If you're on social media at all, it's what a gift that so many people have an opportunity that they never had before to be able to share something, to say something, and spread it in ways that would have just been impossible not that long ago. And into that mess comes this sort of criticism and blocking and unfriending, and like there's also a lot of like emotion wrapped up in that, that I think that sometimes we refrain from being honest because we're thinking, oh, I don't want them to think, or oh, what if this person says, or we're thinking of that audience in our mind. And so by just writing with the intent to be honest, there's something really amazing that happens to us and that can happen on the page.
Oh, so nice. And Celeste said, my writing has surprised me by presenting me with my own depth, which is one of my favorite things in the world when we when we have the experience of surprising ourselves, of giving ourselves permission to be more than what we think we are or what we are capable of. And so I love that Celeste, that was something that happened for her. And this next one, my writing has taught me that I already have a lot of answers to my questions. I just have to do the work to unearth them. I've also learned that my writing has to matter to me first and foremost. So like Kathy had mentioned, that the writing that we do in this course is first and foremost for you and not for an audience and not for what they do or do not like or agree with, etc.
Lisa said, my writing helped me see that all the false starts, abandoned projects, embarrassments, and failures do not make me a dump heap. They're actually raw materials to create beautiful and encouraging things. This helps me to accept myself in a profound new way. Mm. And I love that, because how often, like, just pay attention to your thoughts today, and how often do you talk down to yourself? Do you chide yourself for things not finished? Do you, like, say bad things about yourself? And writing gives you an opportunity to say, no, I'm creating something important in this world, and it's enough.
Yeah, so beautiful. Okay. So this next quote is by the Queen, Ursula K. Le Guin, who she passed away, I believe, a couple years ago, really recently. She said so many important things. And one of them, all of us have to learn how to invent our lives, make them up, imagine them. We need to be taught these skills. We need guides to show us how. Without them, our lives get made up for us by other people. And I would say that's one of the biggest impetuses for our writing practice, for the reason that we teach people to write, is it is such an important thing that we don't just accept language given to us, but that we take charge of it and get to write our own. And I think writing is such an exciting medium for that, because you don't need a lot of materials to write. You don't need to have a specific social status or economic status. Like, any person is capable and able to write, and they are not required to do it for anyone but themselves.
So we are going to write for a few minutes. Just make a list. Writing can be that simple. A lot of times we get stopped because we don't know how to say it right or how to begin. We're just going to start with a list, which is it's just low stakes. So make a list of images, moments, conversations, or objects just from your day today. That's it. So you're just thinking small and thinking very specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we feel strongly in doing all of this work along with the people that are with us. So we are going to also take time and be writing, and heaven knows I need it today. Help us all. So we'll give you 2 minutes and then we will come back. And just, yeah, like Kathy said, we're not looking for like a paragraph or anything written. It's literally just a list. So we'll be back in 2 minutes.
2 minutes always goes so quickly. Wrap up what you're writing. And we'll go to our next little exercise.
Yeah. And I just want to say one quick thing. So my computer screen is obviously taken up by this. So I was trying for a second to get on my word processor and I couldn't. And so I just took out my phone in the notes app and wrote. And I think for me, that has been one of those barriers. Like it almost felt like, oh, can't write. Like I'll just sit here for 2 minutes. And then I remember, no, there's literally a notebook and a pen near me or my phone. Like it does not need to look like this is my writing routine. And I am a professional writer who sits down uninterrupted for hours. Like it literally is use whatever you have around you. Don't keep it in your head, like do the actual act of like typing out or writing out words. But it doesn't need to look a certain way.
Yeah, my 10-year-old actually said the other day, Mom, there was something that I wanted to write in my diary, and I can't remember what it was. What do I do? And I thought, oh, honey, it's gone. You're gonna walk her through that disappointment. Like if it comes to you, grab something, grab the back of an envelope or whatever, and just get those few words down. It doesn't have to look like a whole big thing.
No. Yeah, so I have this on my phone and it's there. Okay, so this next exercise, we want you to choose one thing from your list and describe it as best you can for only yourself. So this is not necessarily, like you don't need to write a grand essay with a big ending in these next 3 minutes. Please don't. That would be a disappointment to you. But just describe what this is. Describe what you thought, describe what you saw, what you felt, what you heard, and do it as if you're only writing for yourself. So this is not writing for anyone else. This is purely an act of witnessing your life, giving it space on a page, and not doing it for an audience. Doing it, with your current self as audience.
And nobody else will need to see this.
No. So we'll write for 3 minutes and then we'll come back. go ahead and come back. Hopefully, I mean, that was 3 minutes is not very much, but I'm always shocked at how much happens in 3 minutes. So I hope that it got you going on something that that you're eager to keep going with.
That's amazing to me is that writing is so generative that for a long time I told myself, if I only had 3 hours every morning, and surprise, I've never had 3 hours every morning. If I can just give myself 3 minutes, often it leads to something bigger than that.
Yeah. And it is surprising to me, like you said, with Odessa's journal, like if you do not capture these things, they will be gone probably forever. Like I have a 1 line a day journal. And you can go back and see the past 5 years. And there are so many details that I think that truly would have been gone for the rest of my life forever, like into who knows what ether. And so just like snatching up those details and writing them down, like I read things of mine all the time that I think, I don't even remember writing that. And let alone like really remember that happening. And I'm so glad that I did. Like I just, and like even the piece that I'll share in a few minutes on here as an example, I do not remember even writing this. And it was not very long ago. Like it was maybe a month ago that I wrote this thing. And so it is so valuable to just gather those things up and say, you are mine and you're going to stick with me because you are what makes up my life. So I don't know if you had any particular experience in giving your detail a home in that brief 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that a lot of times the details are about something that's almost in the way of where I think I'm trying to go. And that if I stop a moment and just inhabit that detail, I ended up writing about there's a deadline that I'm trying to hit, but I have a 7-week-old.
It turns out.
Which, you know, and I love giving him time and attention, but I was trying to get something done this morning. So I was nursing him and trying to type with one hand on the computer. And just like that moment was a moment I was trying to get through. And this writing was a moment that I just got to stay in that experience and write about what it was like. And honestly, I feel like in these few minutes that hopefully will make me a better mom for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had a similar experience. To give some context, in this moment, we've all been in quarantine for about 4 months. And I had a moment where I woke up this morning and I just said, I seriously can't do this another day. Like, I cannot see my kids 24 hours a day in my home for one more day. And as I wrote through the actual detail of like the things that were happening in that moment that I felt that, I realized it was more complex than that. Like it wasn't just me being grumpy. Like there was a lot to that. And so it felt like a moment of grace as well, to be able to say, you're not just a crappy mom who's grumpy at her kids, which is the story that I was about to tell myself and kind of have been telling myself all day. But it was useful to write through it and to see, oh, that's not the only thing. Like clearly I'm a way more complex human. We all are. And so I think it's a way to give ourselves grace.
Really beautiful. Louise Glick, who's just amazing, if you haven't read her, says, if I have any message to any of you who write, it's that you cannot sit calmly repeating yourself. This failure is serious because the dream of art is not to assert what is already known, but to illuminate what has been hidden. And I feel like if there is anything that writing can do, it is to reveal those things, to illuminate those things that you don't even know you're carrying around. Every single time, it doesn't matter how often or how much I write. I could think that I've discovered all the things that I need to know about my life and about myself. And there are things that are hidden that come to the surface every single time I sit down and say, okay, I'm going to just spend this time putting word after word on the page.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to go really briefly through a couple of examples, just because I think it is useful to see how this actually can look in practice. So this is a piece that I wrote as part of both of these pieces actually are as part of those prayer writing sessions in which we had 10 minutes to write something. So it's not profound. It is what it is. So it says, and my daughter outside drawing the cocoon she found, the one that likely will not burst into a butterfly, and the flower, the tiny purple ones that previously I hadn't taken time to see at the base of the giant elm, and her 50 rides down the zip line when no one else can play with her. And let's see. And I feel like this is a moment of, like, I truly did not remember writing this until we came back to this and we're talking about teaching this workshop. And I wouldn't have remembered this. So, and my youngest, the hours she spends, it's just so nice.
You need me to read it?
Yes, it's not nice the way I wrote it. It's just so nice that she was doing this. So I'm glad that I have it. So yes, please just read it.
And my youngest, the hours she spends arranging all her tiny friends in a line, biggest to smallest. The biggest, the father bear calico critter, right down through the double D batteries that she calls mom and dad. To the fairy Christmas ornaments she snuck away.
So, like, there's nothing profound about that. It's just, there's something so useful about saying, these details are mine.
And there's a meaning, regardless of what anybody else thinks, like there's a meaning there for you that is important.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, nobody else nobody else needs to tear up about that. And it's fine. Like, that's it's useful for me. So just a few things to keep in mind as you write these small little things. You don't need to know where the writing will lead you in advance. Please don't know that, or you will write really shitty things. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. I'm sorry. You will write crappy things.
Is the accurate word in that instance. So
there is, and yes, it comes straight from Anne Lamott. So you will not write good things if you demand to know where they are going in advance. The writing does not need to have a moral, a conclusion, or an insight. You will also write crappy things if you insist on them having any of those things. And then the third thing, notice as you write what other details show up for you during the day. And I think that's part of how you make a more meaningful life through writing, is all of these things start to surface for you, like things that have been in your house, things that your kids have done for maybe years, months, that you haven't seen. And it becomes a really exciting way to look at the world, I think.
Yeah. Things that you've done every single day, that you do all the time, suddenly you see, oh wait, there's something here I didn't know before.
Yeah. So this is just one other example from one of the prayer writing courses that we asked permission to share from Bailey. Are you okay to read it, since I haven't proven myself very trustworthy?
Lovely, but I'm happy to read it.
Okay, thank you.
Prior to my neighbor who was feeling afraid, I want to show you the way the tulips are starting to peek up from what I thought was frozen soil. The way their leaves, all inconsistent and green, are flags of something good is always at your feet. I want to show you the coyote who stood on a craggy rock and yipped and howled at me and my dog as we passed on the trail below. I want to show you how it didn't bite or growl, it just watched us carefully. I want to show you the ways that every morning the sun creates geometry in the dining room, and I almost always have to take a picture of it. I want to show you the wispy clouds on the day when you'll wake up, put on your shoes, and walk to the grocery store, the sun heating up the dark sweater on your back.
Such a nice piece.
And these are all, the thing I think to really take from that is they're all such specific details. It's not about don't be afraid, everything's okay, which is such a bland thing to say. But the idea of the sun creating geometry, and you're going to walk out into that sun to go to the grocery store in your dark sweater. So look around your life. What are the colors and the textures and the shapes and the smells? What are those things that you can write? Because those are yours and they're right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so yeah, things to pay attention to, starting with a list of what you see or notice is an excellent way to get going. And going back to that last piece, I do not have dining room windows that create geometry in my dining room every morning, but it asked me to think, I do have something that happens in my house every morning. What does the light look like in my room? And so it is such a nice way to, that writing can connect us to one another. This writing is low stakes. Like, you don't need to change the world with this piece of writing. You don't even need to show it to anyone, even the people who love your writing most. And you don't need to spend a lot of time on this writing. You can make lots and lots of small pieces until something bigger starts to come together. Or keep them small. It can,
because the purpose isn't to write. I mean, you can write the next great American novel. You can write the next book, memoir, if you want to. But to make your life more meaningful, you don't have to put that sort of pressure on it. You can say, I am writing into my life and I'm finding out what's there, what's right in front of me every single day. And you can just do that through writing, and amazing things happen in your life that then make you a better person, and that just ripples out. So take the pressure off of like whatever this piece of writing is supposed to do, other than what it's doing for you right now in front of you on the page.
Yes, such good advice. So we're not going to do this right in this moment, but this would be a next step, is you pick another detail from this list and you write into it. And you can let this writing wander and move around, follow it where it takes you. It might move back in time, it might move forward in time. But remember that it is only for you. And it's doing the work of showing that you are an attentive and appreciative witness to your own life. So after we close out here, that's what we would suggest that you do. We have a few more things, but.
Especially this poem by Jack Gilbert. It's so lovely. It's called Alone. And well, do you want me to read it?
Sure, that's great.
I never thought Michiko would come back after she died, but if she did, I knew it would be as a lady in a long white dress. It is strange that she has returned as somebody's Dalmatian. I meet the man walking her on a leash almost every week. He says good morning, and I stoop down to calm her. He said once that she was never like that with other people. Sometimes she is tethered on their lawn when I go by. If nobody is around, I sit on the grass. When she finally quiets, she puts her head in my lap, and we watch each other's eyes as I whisper in her soft ears. She cares nothing about the mystery. She likes it best when I touch her head and tell her small things about my days and our friends. That makes her happy the way it always did.
Jack is so good.
It's so beautiful. There are all these really just specific details about what he's doing and how he is envisioning his life and this huge loss. And if you have a big story, if there has been a loss or a tragedy or just a life-altering event, you can write about it in the very small actions and details of your life right now.
Yeah. And Jack Gilbert is, I feel like, king at this. If you need to find some more reading to get you going, look him up on poetryfoundation.org. And he has some beautiful writing that reach out in so many ways, but are so specific to him. Just as part of this, we want to say, so this was obviously a free workshop, and we're so glad that you're here. This is our favorite thing to do, to get to teach and to talk about writing. And clearly, if writing were like a person, we would have like
We would be like
Your biggest fans.
yeah, we'd be like its campaign managers, and we would be sending it to like be president. So we really do this because we don't believe in adding more clutter to anyone's life. We don't believe in like giving people more things to do so that they just to say that they did them. Like we really do believe in writing as a practice that makes your life better. And as you learn to make the life closest to you better, you have a more efficacious voice, a more powerful voice that makes the world around you better.
So inevitably, whenever we teach somebody about writing, the fears can kind of bubble up about like, am I doing this right? Do we know what to say? Do I have anything interesting to say? And so one of the reasons why we made our main pre-recorded flagship writing course, it's called There You Are, is because we wanted to help people work through those fears. So a lot of writing courses will focus specifically and only on craft, which is great if you have a lot of writing techniques so that you know what to do. But there's so many things that can block you from getting started with writing in the first place, that most, at least no writing course that I've seen, helps you work through those first to be able to kind of get past that so that you can write honestly and powerfully and clearly. And so that's why we created There You Are, so that you can move past those emotional barriers to writing, and then you can use the writing techniques that we teach you to be able to write something clear and beautiful about your own life. Because we really just believe that when you can articulate your story, you just become a more powerful force for good in this world, and we need that.
Yeah, so if you have enjoyed this workshop, you can check out this new course at mindtotell.com and use this code workshop to get $10 off. It has 23 videos that are, some of them are shorter than this, but they're similar to this. And I feel like Kathy and I are good teachers, to be honest. I feel like we do a really good job because we really care. And we spent a long time kind of figuring out how we wanted to teach this specific course, and what things would be included, how we would teach it. So we've taught the live course several times, but each time we change it and hopefully improve it. And we are so excited about this There You Are course that feels kind of like the culmination of a lot of time and effort and thought. And it's not very expensive. I think it's a pretty good investment, to be honest.
And each of the videos, after every single video, you'll have some sort of prompt to be able to write into, so that by the time you get to the end of the course, the goal is to be able to not only work through emotional barriers and become a better writer, but to also finish a small piece of writing. And then you suddenly have the skills and those sort of like techniques to get past your fears and to write well, so that you can keep writing long after you finish the course in a really powerful way.
Yeah. So reach out to us if you do have any questions or things that you want to talk about in regards to the course. We'd love to answer those. And you can also follow us on Instagram at This Is Mind to Tell is our Instagram account. So to end us out, we hope that this has been useful. We hope that you started writing something in those 5 minutes that we took writing. And we hope that you are able to spend a little bit of time either directly after this class or later on today or this week. But we hope that you will write with something that you've learned or that kind of struck you today. So just remembering that you can make a list of details, and then you can always write into those details, because there is more to them than you think, and there always will be. It's just a gold mine of really beautiful, complex, useful things. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I don't know what they are,
but giving yourself permission to surprise yourself with your own complexity through writing is such a gift that you can offer yourself.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being here. Keep writing, take some time, and we really do encourage you to sign up for the course, just because if you do feel like there is anything kind of waiting inside of you or tapping you on the shoulder, glowing inside of you to say like, hey, this needs to be written down, we'll walk you through that, and we would be totally honored and delighted to do that.
Yeah, and it is fun. It's a fun course. So thank you for being here. Pass this on to friends. Obviously, this is a free workshop, so we would love as many people as can to participate. So hopefully we will see you again.